layer of lime cement under the whole surface of the block. Make the block stable by tapping on it with a rubber mallet. At the same time, check the block is level in both directions. Using a spirit level, check the height setting of the blocks in all corners. Stretch a line and start to build the wall. Lay the first tier of blocks in lime cement. The mortar thickness varies depending on the unevenness of the surface. In the corners, join the blocks with Ytong thin layer bricklaying mortar. The handles, tongues and grooves enable comfortable and precise laying of the blocks without any further corrections. Do not mortar the tongue and groove. The other tiers of blocks are glued solely with Ytong thin bricklaying mortar. Before applying the mortar, clean all the dust and dirt off the block's surface. Spread the mortar under the whole surface of the blocks. Leave an overhang for thermal insulation of the base. For outer walling, the most suitable blocks are 375mm Ytong lambdas. They are not thermally insulated since the thermal insulating features of Ytong are excellent. If Ytong tools are employed, the labour becomes easier and more efficient. Ensure good bonding of blocks. Extending profiles can be flushed easily with a plane. If there is any unevenness, it can be planed. Sweep the surface before laying another tier of blocks. Make sure that overlapping blocks are perpendicular and vertically aligned. If you use blocks without tongues and grooves, apply adhesive mortar even on their vertical sides. For inner load-bearing walling, use 250 or 300mm blocks for higher strength. Ytong aerated concrete strength is the same in all directions, so you can turn the blocks as you please, keeping their load-bearing capacity the same. It's good to reinforce masonry under window openings. Since aerated concrete is easy to tool, reinforcing is plain sailing. Make a groove for the bar so that the reinforcement overhangs a potential jam by at least 500mm. Clean out the grooves, fill them with mortar, put in the bars, mortar properly and lay the blocks in the usual way. Building is efficient. Compared to an ordinary house, several thousands of euros are saved thanks to extremely precise proportions, trouble-free shaping, the form of the blocks, and the thin layer mortar. An outstanding property of Ytong blocks is their machinability. They are easy to cut and shape, which reduces the material costs. No need to order shaped blocks or special expensive components. During bricklaying, there's hardly any material wasted. A bandsaw can be borrowed on request. Although Ytong material is harmless to health, make sure to use protective clothing. Ytong is made of natural raw materials, silica sand, lime and water. Moreover, the composition of Ytong aerated concrete prevents mold. The easiest way to span openings is with load-bearing lintels. Measure out the load-bearing length and spread bricklaying mortar in the same thickness as when making the walls. Make sure that the arrows drawn on the lintel point upwards. Using Ytong lintels, thermal bridges are minimized and the base for surface finishes is integrated. Then you can fill in any gaps. Another alternative is a composite lintel, which is easily made by laying several girders, so-called flat girders, next to each other. Lay them in mortar with arrows pointing upwards again. Use a spirit level to make sure that the girders are laid precisely. Any unevenness can be easily planed off. Sweep off the dirt and dust. Finally, lay a block of tiers on the girders, mortaring all horizontal and vertical joints properly. Beware that lintels made in this way are not load-bearing until the mortar is set thoroughly. When building with Itong, making reinforced concrete lintels is not a problem either. Use special blocks, U-profiles, which serve as a permanent shuttering. Lay the U-profiles on the construction so that the load-bearing length of the lintels is at least 250 mm. Glue the end faces to each other as if they were plain blocks. Put core reinforcement, thermal insulation and concrete into the profiles. Again, the lintels are not load-bearing until the concrete is set.
The construction ran really quickly. Even the staircase was ready. I'd thought up a curved staircase. According to the design, the producer made some atypical stairs. At the building site later on, we set the stairs within a few hours.
Lay load-bearing dwarf walls on hydro insulation in a layer of lime cement. Set the first tier higher by the floor thickness. The Itong system floor is easy to assemble using reinforced concrete beams on which aerated concrete filler blocks are laid. Space the beams according to the laying plans. Make sure that the minimal end-bearing length of the beams on the wall is 150 mm. The beams require some laying support. When laying the starting course of filler blocks, adjust the spacing of the beams. The laying is very easy and quick. Reinforce the upper part of the plate with concrete mesh. Put the beam reinforcement in the gap between the filler blocks and the beam blocks along the perimeter of the floor construction. Then, concrete the ribs, the beams and the floor plate. Do not remove the laying support until the concrete is thoroughly set. Attic walls are laid in a mortar bed in the same way as the walls on the ground floor. To make a beam, use U-profiles. Glue them together with thin bricklaying mortar. Use the reinforcement cage again. Before concreting, don't forget to put in insulation and roof truss anchors. One advantage of Itong is it's an excellent heat insulator, preventing the interior from overheating in the summer and cooling in the winter. If partitions are planned when the load-bearing and outer walls are being put up, put in at every other joint a stainless steel connector to anchor the proposed partition to the masonry. Mark the position of the partition on the load-bearing wall. Spread lime cement mortar for the first tier of blocks on hydro insulation. Mortar the partition blocks on all surfaces. Mortar the connectors properly and brick over. Finally, fill the gaps between each partition and the floor with fixing. Partitions, especially in the attic, can be anchored in a slightly different way. Fix a connector into the masonry with an anchor for aerated concrete. Do not glue the partitions to the load-bearing walls. Fill the gap with fixing foam. Ytong offers lintels over doors and partitions as well. Lintel installation is easy as they are simply laid in a thin layer mortar. The finishing touches are very quick and easy. With simple tools you can make the openings and grooves you need. Walling with Ytong blocks is very efficient. The shape of the house is visible within 14 days.